Good afternoon. So what you see on the screen is the community of Cerro de Pasco. There's 67,000 people living there at 4,400 meters above sea level. As you can see, it's a community, but it's also a mine. The Spanish discovered that mine back in 1630, and they started an operation. And that operation has never stopped since then. I don't know one mine in the world that had such a statistic. In 1906, Mr. J.P. Morgan himself made what they still call the greatest investment of the 20th century in Peru. He invested tens of millions of dollars into that project. They create Cerro de Pasco Copper Corporation. Few years after, they list the company on the New York Stock Exchange. Cerro de Pasco Copper Corporation have sent to Peru the best engineers, the best metallurgists, the best geologists, the best equipment. Cerro de Pasco became the school of all the mines of the planet. Cerro de Pasco became the cash cow of the country. Cerro de Pasco became the largest gold, copper, silver mine in the world. They extracted from that pit over the years 300 million tons. This is a usual forward-looking statement that the authorities suggest us to add to our PowerPoint presentation. I suggest you to go to our website and read it. So I just mentioned to you they extracted from that pit over the years 300 million tons. So what you see in white is what was processed, 75 million tons. And in the back, it's what was not processed but stockpiled. You can also see in the back the pit. So what I'm going to show you in the next slide is a satellite picture. So you recognize what was in white is now in orange, and what was covered with tarps, the stockpiles, is now in gray-blue. So what we own, shareholders of Cerro de Pasco Resource, we own the mineral rights on the stockpiles in these tailings. So we own the mineral rights on what we expect to be the largest above-ground mineral resource on the planet. The pit has been shut down. The mine belongs to Volcan, a Peruvian zinc producer. At some point in 2020, we were intent to buy Cerro de Pasco, the operation, the two flotation facilities. You can see one on the right top part of the slide. We did an intense due diligence. We spent 4 months with 2 engineers and 2 geologists compiling everything that was processed from 1906, when Mr. J.P. Morgan made the investment, until 1992, when they stopped sending material in these tailings. We end up not making a deal for one reason: COVID. But from this intense due diligence, we compile those reports, and we end up with these results. We realize they have processed over the years 75 million tons. We know precisely what they have recovered, kind of 60%. So we know what is left in these tailings. And this is what you see in the bottom part of this slide. So what's left in the tailings? If you put the copper, the lead, the zinc, and the gold into silver equivalent, you end up at 423 million ounces of silver equivalent. This is $14 billion worth of metals above ground. And let's recall today, to produce base metal or precious metal, 40% of the cost is mining. There's no mining here. Count $1 per ton. Question you should ask me, is why the recovery was so bad at the time. So if you go back in time, we know the regions were not, the technology was not appropriate, the regions were not so good. The grinding was not appropriate neither. But what we read in those reports, when you go back in time, it was the largest operation in the world. They were extracting from that pit every day 20,000 tons. They were processing 30,000 tons, and they were stockpiling 7,000 tons. Every morning, there was 20,000 tons there. So when you do flotation, generally, over the first 24 hours, you're going to recover 60% of your metals. And if you keep the flotation process going for 72 hours, you will end up recovering 85 to 87%. Again, go back in time. Every morning, there's 20,000 tons there, where you're going to recover 60%. Why should they have wait an extra 48 hours to recover an extra 25%? So what they were doing, they were throwing that rich materials in these tailings. This is why these are the richest tailing on the planet. So at some point, we have to drill to prove our expectation. We have a very good relation with the community. By the way, that mine used to employ 7,000 people. Today, there are barely 500 people working there. You tell me, what can you do at 4,400 meters above sea level else than mining? So we received from the government in May 2024 a Supreme Resolution to allow us to perform 40 holes on our permit. So we start drilling shortly after. We start first with an impact drill, and then we had to use, because at some point these tailings are 58 meters deep, so we had to use a sonic drill. So what we're doing, we're taking sample 1 meter per 1 meter, and we're freezing these samples. And we're sending them to the lab. We cut the sample in half. Half goes for assay, the other half goes for metallurgy. While we're freezing the sample, just during the transformation, the transportation, they do not give oxidize for metallurgical tests. So after 40 holes, so far, so good. We are exactly where we expected to be, except we're a little bit low on copper. But we will catch up on copper. You can see over here the color. The copper is there. We're going to find that copper in the next phase of drilling. So we are, really satisfied. Each hole, from top to the bottom, average 1.5 to 2.5 ounce per ton, and an average of 4.3 ounce per ton equivalent. So we're really satisfied of that. But what we were most surprised of, Chen have talked about that at the beginning, we've got an average of 53.2 grams per ton of gallium so far, plus 20 grams per ton of helium. So that means we move our in-situ value of from $168 US per ton to north of $200 US per ton. Regarding gallium, you just have to turn on the TV. You know what's going on. China produced 98% of the gallium. China has banned the exportation of gallium, germanium, and antimony to the United States. So with that grade, we estimate we will end up being able to produce 4 times the amount of gallium produced and reported by China in 2024. That means if we succeed getting this gallium out, we can support the planet by ourselves for 4 years. Or this slide, you see the United States desperately looking for gallium. Pentagon says recovery, not mining, is the fastest way to make the material more available. The proposed projects are similar to any effort that reprocess mine tailings. This is us. Let's do some relative economy here, economics. So taking average price, okay, and assuming we're going to use the neighbor facilities, flotation facilities, we have an in situ value of $169 US per ton. The neighbor facility, they got all Jameson cells. We're probably going to be able to recover just north of 40%. So we will end up with an NSR value of $49 US per ton. At 10,000 tons per day, as it is now, we're going to make $140 million profit a year. But now after the drilling and we look at it and we decide to build our own facilities at 20,000 tons per day, the in situ value will move to $190 US per ton, and the profit per year will move from $140 million US to $610 million US. So at some point, depending on the recovery, because here with a new facility, we're recovering 70%. Let's recall that all flotation facilities built in Peru after 2012 recovered more than 70%. So at some point, we will be able, in our model, to have cash flow in between $140 million and $610 million. So next step, we're doing a lot of metallurgical study at the moment, and we're formalizing the claim on surrounding tailings that belongs to the government. Naturally, the government wants this thing to move on. We're going to pay the government 28% income tax. So this is how we're going to process these tailings. Those tailings are naturally saturated with water. So if you do an excavation, it's going to naturally fill with water. We're going to bring a pontoon on site, and we're going to create slurry, and we're going to pump this slurry to the neighbor facilities or the facilities that we're going to build ourselves. You can see here, we're going to pump that slurry day and night at 10,000 tons per day per pump. Let's recall that mine was operated historically very aggressively. Trucking, dust, dynamite, noise, 24 hours a day. We're eliminating all this, running that operation this way. This will be Cerro de Pasco in 25 years. Last slide. So we got 500 million shares outstanding. 40% of them are held by management, Eric's plot and tree institution. You can see the share price has done a good move when we start announcing these results. It has stabilized. You can check today we're moving on again. We have the 10 million shares that was owned by Trivaldi that went to the market. In addition to that, we have those warrants at 25 cents that have been all exercised, right? 20 million warrants have been exercised at 25 cents. So that will relieve the pressure on the stock. This is us.